plus 6, 23. So Delver's not going to flip as often as you'd probably like, right?
Right. So
Just
this,
based off of math.
right. So this seems a lot like. It kind of feels like a block deck to me in a little bit. We saw Celestia become a really popular deck at the last block PT. In fact, the Star City Games team was playing a Bant aggro deck, which was Celestia splashing blue. And this to me seems kind of like an evolution of what that deck could be. It's it's running your really efficient creatures, your Call of the Conclave, Advent of the Worm, Rootborn Defenses, Luxodon Smiter, but it's supplementing them with Cloudfin Raptors, Geists, and Unsummons.
And a timely Cloudfin Raptor we are going to see here on turn 1, so I think this is going to be kind of fun to see if Cloudfin Raptor is the real deal right away, as Brayden does have an on turn 1 here, so we'll see just how good this thing can be and constructed.
Now, outside of Delver of Secrets, Cloudfin Raptor is probably the best Delver of Secrets in the format. It's a 1-drop that can actually still become relevant in the late game due to its evolve.
Yeah. So he's going to play Delver of Secrets. After the Cloudfin Raptor, it's going to make it a 1/2, and now he's kind of threatening to deal a lot of damage on the next turn if that Delver flips into an Insectile Aberration.
Yeah, Aaron Alldredge not with a particularly large number of answers to flyers. A lot of his things hit really hard on the ground. He has, Master Biomancer, Thragtusk, Huntmaster. Probably his best defense against this early attack is going to be that Nightshade Peddler Is It Staticaster combo.
Well, now here comes a Centaur token from Call the Conclave. Going to pump up the jam of that Cloudfin Raptor and come across for 3 here, as we are being informed that Aaron Alldredge did take a mulligan down to at least 6 cards. So if he is fumbling around, that could be the reason for that.
Yeah, what I like about Brayden's deck here is that he has a bunch of creatures with really good power to converted mana cost ratios.
Yeah.
Call the Conclave a 3 power for 2. Cloudfin Raptor threatening to be a 3 power for 1.
Yeah. So definitely some efficient threats here, as it does not flip again, does the Delver of Secrets. Looks like Brayden keeps drawing lands off of this, but he is just going to keep serving on in here. And it doesn't look like we even have an Is It Staticaster here from Alldredge, so what does he have in that grip of cards there?
It looks like he might have kept a land-heavy 6 and was punished by drawing more lands. Presumably he has a 4.
Yeah, looks like he's a Huntmaster of the Fells.
Right.
Okay, so that's a start.
Yeah, Huntmaster will go a long way in gaining some of that life back. Interestingly enough, on this board, it doesn't really block anything. I suppose he can attempt to trade it for the 3/3 Centaur if he wants to lose the actual Huntmaster himself. Yeah. But because Brayden's creatures all have flying, Delver doesn't yet, but might. He's still actually threatening a lot of damage.
So check for Delver again. It's a Cloudfin Raptor, so that's not going to do it. And now you see that die there. We'll get a wolf token in play for you guys in just a moment, so we can have better representation for you. But I think, either way, I think Brayden's slamming in here with probably the Centaur and that Cloudfin Raptor.
Well, he may slam in with everything. He does have Celestia Charm to pump the Delver of Secrets if he makes an enticing enough block.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking the same thing too. I thought we might see Delver come in here because Delver's pretty enticing to want to attack.
He's going to go with the safe play, which is fine. Just swinging the two creatures, the 2 powerful creatures. That pushes 2 in the air, and he's going to have probably a follow-up Cloudfin Raptor.
So there's a Cloudfin, and looks like we're going to pass the turn back with what looks to be, for Efserhoff, just lands, and then that Celestia Charm.
Now here's where this part of the fun late game from Aaron Alldredge. He does have in his hand a Progenitor Mimic.
Mm-hmm. So things can get out of control, excuse me, if he's able to get one of those into play. The question is he going to have enough time to do that? Here's a Thundermaw Hellkite that's shown up.
Yeah, and that'll be, unfortunately for Brayden, he does have a 1 toughness flyer in play.
Yep.
So the Thundermaw Hellkite's going to get a lot of value here.
So now we're going to see a Celestia Charm. Is it going to pump that? No.
Now, he's choosing to pump it instead of making... No, he's going to make a Knight to pump it, okay. Right? Which is the correct way to do that play.
I guess the question is, are you happier doing that, or would you rather just Celestia Charm to kill the dragon so you can keep attacking in the air?
Yeah, I would probably use it to exile the dragon, unless I had another Celestia Charm in hand.
Because I'm willing to let go of my 0-1 Cloudfin Raptor. That's probably not going to get much bigger over the course of this game.
Right, when you think of what you need to think about in this situation, and what Brayden may be doing is you have to think about it in terms of how many damage points does it push. You are saving a 1 power flyer by doing it this way, and you're getting a 2/2. So that's like about 3 damage worth of threats. Mm-hmm. The question is that Thundermaw being in play going to prevent more than 3 damage from getting in? And it's already preventing 2 this turn, like 2 from the 2/3 Cloudfin Raptor. It's preventing a 3rd, and preventing the 3/3 from swinging. So my guess would be a resounding yes, that the dragon should be gone.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So now you see a hand. Okay, so there's a Celestial Charm in his hand. So
maybe he had both.
yeah, if he had a backup Celestial Charm, then this play makes a little bit more sense to me, because now you can just off the dragon and serve in there with everything. But most importantly, that Huntmaster of the Fells doesn't even flip either, which is a big deal.
Absolutely.
So let's see what mode he's going to use on the Celestial Charm, if he's going to take care of the dragon and get in. And it looks like he's going to exile it.
And swing probably with the whole team minus Delver of Secrets is in the works.
If he does attack with the Delver, let's say the Huntmaster jumps in front of the Delver, it's 3, 4, 5, 6,
8.
7,
That would put
8.
Aaron down to 2.
Sure.
As it is, Aaron has to debate whether or not he wants to trade that Huntmaster with the Knight. That's really not how he wants to use the Huntmaster. But the thing is that Aaron can't flip his own Huntmaster. You know, he's to stay in this game, he's gonna have to keep playing spells every turn.
Yep.
So when he thinks about how good this Huntmaster is, he has to think, you know, what are the odds that Brayden's going to stop playing spells?
And especially when you have Progenitor Mimic in your hand, blocking seems a little bit more dubious. Then you'd rather leave that in play, copy your Progenitor Mimic, and then just do your thing. But you see now the Huntmaster is going to jump in front of that token. 3, 4, 5, 6 damage is going to come through. Alldredge is going to move down to 4.
Yeah, typically I would make that block. I'm a little worried about this because I want that Progenitor Mimic. I want the Huntmaster in place so that I can mimic it.
Sure.
He has a couple more lands. He's drawn another Thundermaw Hellkite, and he does have that Mimic. I don't know if he has any other options to him. He's facing down a fairly large board.
Okay. The way that he drew his card looked like he was kind of hoping to draw a Miracle, so I was checking the deck list there to see if he had Bonfire of the Damned, but those do not exist there for Alldredge.
I think he has a Farseek as the last card in his hand. He drew just, you know, a little too late in the game.
Sure.
And he does have the Thundermaw Hellkite.
It is back yet again.
He was thinking about it, and I think he realizes if he plays that Thundermaw Hellkite, I think he's dead.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to play that. The trigger's going to be active. It's not going to kill any of the flyers.
Well, isn't he? I think he's just dead to Brayden turning all his things sideways.
Yes,
right
he is. I mean, the Thundermaw goes in front of the Centaur. He takes 2, 3, 4. He takes exactly 4. Assuming that Brayden makes the right attack of just turning all of the guys sideways.
Yeah, certainly if the Delver flips here, that'll be an easy one to make. And it does, flipping off Spell Rupture. If you're Brayden, you may not even want to show that Spell Rupture. Spell Rupture is a pretty unconventional card to be playing. You've given a fair amount of information there. That's it. He plays a full 3 Spell Ruptures.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely gives some information away that's unnecessary to give now, because now it's something that Alldredge does get to know about, where if he just hides the Spell Rupture, doesn't flip the Delver, he's still dead regardless. So a small bit of information given away there by Efserhoff, but at the end of the day, he is going to be up a game here against Alldredge in his Rug Peddler deck.
Yeah, Efserhoff's deck's pretty interesting there. That's, you know, executing, I think, exactly how it's supposed to. Granted, the Delver doesn't flip that early. But, you know, that is his game plan, to stick a couple really efficient threats and then, you know, protect them via unsummons, Selesnya Charms, Simic Charms.
Yeah. So we'll take a look at the sideboards here. We'll start with Alldredge because he's going to be on the play.
Okay, so Alldredge's sideboard has a fair number of different cards in it. He has Etherlings, he has Clones, he has Garuks, Domeries, Acidic Slimes. He has a 4th Thragtusk in the board. And the one I somewhat like here is he has 3 Bonfire of the Damned in the board. And especially in a matchup like this, I think that's a card he's going to go to.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he drew his card like that just because he was thinking, maybe I can't draw Bonfire, but we're not in sideboard games just yet, my friend.
Right, so he has the Bonfire. He also has access to Garruk Relentless, who, because a lot of Brayden's creatures are 1/1s or 0/1s the turn they come into play, the Garruk could stand to be a pretty powerful card.
Yeah. We're going to take a look here at Brayden's sideboard. 3 Rest in Peace, 2 Centaur Healer, 2 Syncopate, 2 Negate, 2 Azorius Charm, a Runechanter's Pike, a Triumph of Ferocity, a Detention Sphere, and a Rootborn Defenses. Trying to figure out what is going to be the most useful thing here for him. Nothing really jumping out. I mean, Detention Sphere seems like it's okay. Rootborn Defenses, again, seems like it's okay, but he already has 2 of those in his main deck. I'm not sure that he wants a 3rd.
Yeah, he didn't see any half of the actual Peddler combo from Alldredge, so he's probably, and to a certain degree, he's left guessing as to what his opponent's doing.
Yeah, I mean, he could very easily think that this is just a blue, red, green, good card deck, which to some extent it is, but it happens to just have a very good combo in it that's very difficult for Brayden's deck to actually defeat.
Right, so if you knew the whole list, what would you like him to sideboard in?
it's still pretty tough because like he doesn't have any good way to go about breaking up the combo. I mean, the Tension Sphere is the one, which I think he would board in. I think he's going to board in now that he's seen Thunderbolt Hellkite. But outside of that, nothing really stands out here as useful tools against this deck.
I do like the Rune Chanter's Pike, actually. I think one of the problems, which you probably saw there, was Alldredge's deck clearly has larger creatures. You know, if he didn't have that Simic Charm, how was he going to break through the dragon? And I think Rune Chanter's Pike gives him a little more versatility in his late game.
Okay. I mean, it's definitely a way to push through some damage there. And First Strike also could end up being relevant as well. And when you do have Rune Chanter's Pike in combination with Advent of the Worm, you're able to actually push through a lot of damage.
Granted, it's only a 1-of Rune Chanter's Pike.
Yeah. A card that we used to see a lot of back in the Delver days.
Yeah,
kind of falling off now.
Solid 2 or 3, anywhere from 1 to 3 in Delver decks.
And I remember when Rune Chanter's Pike used to get cast, I was never a happy mage.
Well, sometimes it'd be like, you know, for 11 or it was for very silly numbers.
Yeah. In this deck, again, we see the 24 spells in the main deck, or excuse me, 23 spells in the main deck. So Rune Chanter's Pike isn't going to grow out of control, especially when there's no Thought Scours here to help fuel that. But it can provide a decent bonus, and I think First Strike may end up being the more important of the two on the card.
Without Thought Scours and Jataxian Probes, I do think the Pike, you know, certainly is more under control than we're used to seeing it.
Yeah.
What I do like about how Brayden's designed the deck is that a lot of his creatures, he's able to play over 20 creatures and over 20 spells thanks to Call of the Conclave and Advent of the Worm.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, his Pike still works in an aggro deck, his Delver's still flipped, but he still actually gets to be an aggro deck by having a lot of creatures.
And the other nice thing too is by playing those cards, you know, the evolution chain for Cloudfin Raptor actually works out pretty well, being able to consistently evolve that thing. Going Cloudfin Raptor into Call the Conclave into Geist Saint Trap, for example, it will evolve into a 2/3 and be able to give some beatdowns, and Advent of the Worm will make it a 3/4 and so on and so forth. So that's pretty nice too.
All right. Both players on their opening hands.
Any mulligans to be had, gentlemen, or are we happy? That is the big question. See, both players really giving a look, and now Aaron looking at the sky saying, why? Can I get there? Where am I trying to get to?
Right, especially in this sort of matchup, you know, you still don't know your opponent's deck all the way. You're not sure what you're trying to do. And Aaron is on the mulligan. Brayden is not.
It was a mighty slow mulligan, too. That was a mulligan that Aaron did not want to take. That is for sure.
Well, fortunately for Aaron's deck, he does have, you know, he still has this combo of Nightshade Peddler, Izzet Staticaster, that if he assembles is near unbeatable. Brayden's deck doesn't have actual hard removal for things that don't have 5 power. He has 3 Spell Ruptures as counter magic, and that's about it. He has Geist Saint Trap, which does not get peddlered, but outside of that, you know, that combo will make sure it works with Brayden's team.
So let's see. I mean, I think for Aaron, yeah, he's just really looking for the combo. Like, that's why I feel like he's just mulliganing towards, to a certain extent, like within reason.
Absolutely. I mean, as much as you can look for the combo, he doesn't have too much search in his decks. You know, it's either he draws it or he doesn't. So when you say looking for it, it's not that, you know, he can't really control whether or not he has it. But a lot of his other cards, you know, I think Master Biomancer is in a poor position in this matchup.
I would agree.
You know, it won't really give creatures counters at a relevant time in the game. And he only has 2 Arbor Elf and 4. So that in conjunction with his 4 Farseek, he's going to need to accelerate his early game so he doesn't get run over.
Sure. So see if he can put it together on a mulligan here. As he already is down in game, back against the wall, and Brayden is going to be keeping his opening 7. Again, Efserhoff is going to be on the draw, so if we're looking for positives in Alldredge's favor, that's 1. That's for sure. So we need to see what he can find as he's going to present his deck over to Brayden, and we'll see if the man with the squirrel sleeves can find a 6 to keep. And 6. Uh-oh. Looks like he's happy enough. Okay.
All right, he's going to go with it. He has a turn 1 Arbor Elf and a forest to go with it. So that early accelerant, pretty strong here. Remember, Brayden doesn't actually have removal in his deck. He has, you know, 3 counter spells and 3 unsummons, which are removable. Though in this matchup, I'm not sure how much they count.
So here's Cloudfin Raptor to start the show off yet again. So a pretty decent start here for Efserhoff, assuming that he can pump that thing up. Again, he can't actually cast Call the Conclave next turn because it's off a basic island, but It's not the end of the world, as we're going to see a Farseek here.
We see Thragtusk and Turnburn in Alldredge's hand. Once again, no Izzet Staticaster, which would be, I think is still very strong in the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, clearly when your opponent has a 1 toughness creature in play, that would be the ideal draw.
But the fact that Izzet Staticaster can't come down on turn 2 can really just break a game wide open.
Yeah, what he can do here, fortunately, is he may be able to pull off a turn 3 Thragtusk on the play, which will do just fine.
Yeah, I mean, Thragtusk is very difficult for these tempo-oriented decks to beat, like a Ban aggro deck, or, we saw Colin Chilbert playing Rug Delver yesterday as well, and he had a lot of difficulty with just resolved Thragtusk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult for him. He would be very far ahead, and then 2 Thragtusks later, he'd be almost out of the game.
So we're going to see this start again here of Cloudfin Raptor into Delver of Secrets. We'll see if Delver can actually flip into Insectile Aberration a little bit sooner this game. But Alldredge does have the answer in turn burn, and he actually just drew another one.
He has a second turn burn. He does not get the turn 3 Thragtusk, as he just has a Farseek instead of the land, it looks like. So we may see a Farseek and then burn on one of these creatures.
And I think he needs to. I think that's very smart for him to actually cast burn on his turn. Where he's gonna go with double burn and kill both of his guys, but I think he needs to do it on his turn, just because he does not want to get blown up by Celestia Charm or Simic Charm, which he hasn't seen yet, but there are 3 copies here in Efserhoff's deck.
Yeah, especially with these tempo decks, getting your early plays off the board can be really strong. Brayden's deck has more resiliency than your traditional tempo deck. As you can see in his hand, he has Advent of the Worm. He, however, does not have the mana to cast it yet. Advent is double green, and he is on 0.
Yeah. So now here's a Breeding Pool off the top, and now here's Thragtusk, so it's only going to gain 3 instead of 5, theoretically. But a 5/3 will be on the board here, facing down Delver of Secrets.
Yeah, and Thragtusk is a pretty good answer, even to just to Advent of the Worm. It's really gonna, it trades with Advent of the Worm, which is excellent.
Delver of Secrets is going to flip. Rootborn Defenses was the card that was shown, so Insectile Aberration is going to come across for 3. And we'll see what Efserhoff can do right now, because he does have at least 1 green in the form of that Hinterland Harbor, but he needs a second one to be able to cast Advent of the Worm.
Yeah, now what's good is that this Rootborn Defenses will be a pretty strong play when he gets it. When he casts it, hopefully it will populate the 5/5 Worm. It won't be really a surprise, as Aaron has seen the Rootborn Defenses, but still stands to be pretty powerful.
So here's a Nightshade Peddler. Passing the turn back. It's a little surprising to see Peddler get cast that turn, because Alldredge could have cast a Thundermaw Hellkite that he does have in his hand. That's his last card. And he chose not to.
Yeah, I think he's worried about Spell Rupture.
Okay.
This play plays around Spell Rupture. And we see Brayden drawing another Advent of the Worm. And I do like that play if you're Aaron playing around the Spell Rupture, because you're ahead on the board. So why not wait for your opponent to do something?
Yeah, if the game stays how it is right now, and no other spells are cast, then Alldredge would win this game.
And that will be the strength if Brayden finds a second green of Advent of the Worm, is he can basically, keep up that counter spell, which I don't know if it may not, I'm putting counter spell, I guess, in quotes, I'm not sure if he actually has one, but he can keep up a counter spell while committing more threats to the board. So we have Thragtusk hitting in. Brayden's life total becoming a little bit of an issue here. I think he still has 1 or 2 more turns before he starts having to, chump block.
Yeah, I think attacking is still completely reasonable right now. I don't think there's any reason to slow down, especially if he does draw that green land. Then, he can kind of turn the tides in a big way by, playing Advent of the Worm, following it up with another Advent of the Worm, or Rootborn Defenses, plus, who knows what.
Yeah, Brayden also does have, he has 2 Advents, an Unsummon, and a Rootborn in his hand. The Unsummon is being blanked a little bit right now because it's not a good weapon against Thragtusk. We see us draw Huntmaster of the Fells for Aaron Alldredge.
So what we're going to see here with Ice is we're going to see Thundermaw Hellkite come in, and part of the reason that he probably waited for the Thundermaw is because he wants to pair it up with the Soulbond and then resolve the triggers in such a way that when they do, when the Thundermaw's ability does trigger, it will have Death Touch, because Thundermaw is the one that does the damage on that card.
Now, Brayden has reached to tap his Insectile Aberration, and Aaron informed him that the Insectile Aberration is dead. I don't believe this gives Aaron the chance to cast a spell anymore. By tapping it, it's clear he's let the ability resolve. The judge may, the judge may just say that the Insectile Aberration has to go to the graveyard. Brayden's clearly contemplating casting a Rootborn or an Unsummon.
Yeah, and it also depends, because we don't have verbal confirmation. It depends on how he stacked the Soulbond and
what was said.
Yeah, and the Dragon's ability.
So the question is, what's he going to unsummon? I mean, I think the answer is supposed to be Thundermaw Hellkite.
Yeah. And you see Alldredge going, hey, like,
It's already dead.
I dealt the damage on that, so your guy should be dead because we're paired up, and then I resolved the ability, and like you didn't realize that it had Death Touch, so it's kind of your loss that you don't know the interaction.
This is always one of those things that's hard to call from the booth because it's completely dependent on the words that were said by the players.
Absolutely.
So we will wait to see what the resolution is here.
Yeah. And it's important that you're very clear about how these things do resolve. Like that's the important part. And you see the judge taking a look there at Thundermaw Hellkite, and this Thundermaw Hellkite that does deal the damage. So if that creature is tapped, as you said, then that means that Efserhoff did let the Thundermaw Hellkite's ability resolve.
He just incorrectly resolved it.
Correct.
Which, I mean, if he'd already moved to that point, then there's no going back. The Insectile Aberration is dead. However, if Aaron said something like, "Okay, come into play," if he said comes into play, tap your guy, and then he says, "And so," like, it depends when he declared that they were soulbound.
Yeah.
And he says, "And soulbound bind it," then there's probably some. If there's something that was unclear in how it was said, the judge will probably give the benefit of the doubt to Brayden.
Yeah. And this is why clarification is so key when you play Magic, of just announcing what you're going to do, how you're stacking your effects, so that there's never any confusion. So you have to bring a judge into a situation like this. Obviously, judges are here for our benefit in case we get confused, but this is why clarification is key. And now you're going to see the Insectile Aberration is going to die.
So
I think the Unsummon should go back.
What happens to the Unsummon then?
Yeah.
The Unsummon still resolves. The Dragon's still back in his hand.
Yeah. Okay. So we've taken care of that.
And just Thragtusk hitting. He does. What do you suppose he's playing around here by not swinging Nightshade Petal?
That's a really good question, actually. I think like
Selesnya Charm on the blocker.
Yeah, maybe Selesnya
He did
Charm.
see some.
Yeah,
that's fair. And either way, Brayden didn't draw land and quickly concedes. So we are going to game 3.
And Brayden just learned a very, very valuable interaction there. So,
yeah.
He'll be a little bit more cognizant of that when we move into this third and final game, assuming that it does come up. So, I mean, as we're going to have Brayden on the play this game, so, we've already seen a Cloudfin Raptor and Delver of Secrets combination, in the first 2 games. And do you think things change when he's on the play versus when he's on the draw?
I mean, that's still the best thing he can do early in the game. I think what he's really hoping to do is have a Spell Rupture in hand. Obviously his mana problems really got to him that game. But even if they hadn't been there, Thragtusk is a big issue for these Bant decks. And if he can counter a Thragtusk on the way down, I think he's looking pretty good in the matchup.
Okay. Well, Spell Rupture, you believe is going to play a pretty big key in this matchup, but I also think being aggressive is good.
Yeah, being aggressive is good, obviously. I don't know if Brayden's deck can legitimately deal 20, just curve out and race a Thragtusk.
Yeah.
I'm questioning whether or not it's anything but a Godra actually does that.
Sure.
So because of that, I feel like he wants to interact with the Thragtusk, whether it is a Selesnya Charm, that's being one of the worst answers, or a Spell Rupture probably being the best answer.
So we'll see how this is going to break. If you guys are just joining us, Matthias Hunt, Cedric Phillips here. Star City Games Open Series has made its way to Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. You guys can join in on Twitter with us at SCG Live, hashtag SCGDAL. It's always a pleasure to bring you guys the coverage this weekend as we are in round 6 of 9. If you guys missed the first Standard Open, Ken Yeo did win that with a blue, white, red. I don't want to call it flash. I'd rather call it control.
Yeah, there's no flash in it. I mean, there's a bunch of instants that kill things.
Yeah, but no
That's about
Restoration
everything
Angels,
flashes.
2 Snapcaster Mages, no Augur Bolus. So calling it a flash deck is probably not fair to the flash creators of that deck. But Blue White Red Control did come back with a vengeance, and we are going to see if that's going to be like a repeat performance, if Junk and Jund are going to come back as the tag team champions of the world, or are we going to see something new this weekend and take a title down?
Yeah, well, I mean, despite the success of Revelation yesterday, I would still say it's a largely Revelation-less format.
It really does feel that way right now. And I mean, that's a good thing for some people and a bad thing for others, honestly.
Well, what it does is it allows, there's a lot of decks, it allows other slower strategies to really branch out. Say this Rug Peddler deck, it's not particularly fast. It's got a good anti-aggro matchup. The reason you can't play it is because its late game is nowhere close to a Sphinx's Revelation. But if there aren't Sphinx's Revelations, then suddenly you get to play things like this.
Its late game is night and day compared to Sphinx's Revelation deck. The best late game that this Rug Peddler deck can really put together revolves around Progenitor Mimic, and as powerful as that card is, it doesn't line up very well against
It dies with Supreme Verdicts just like everything else.
So we're going to see both players take a look at their 7 cards here. going to resolve some mulligans, and it's pretty important, I think, for Brayden to just get off to a pretty nice start, and it looks like he's already keeping his 7 cards, so.
I believe he may have taken a mulligan there. I'll confirm that in a second, but
Okay.
yeah, I think Brayden might be on a...
It does look like he's on 6
Yeah,
cards.
he's already on 6 cards.
And he's not off to a very fast start here.
No,
No Cloudfin Raptor or Delver Secret.
Right, it's looking like he has some more lands and a Rootborn Defense. He has a Detention Sphere that he's boarded in his hand as well. You know, he has a Syncopate, a Detention Sphere, a Rootborn Defense, and I think a Selesnya Charm. I mean, the problem with this hand is that the only creature in it is a 2/2.
Yeah, that's the big problem.
Right, I mean, he needs a plan to win the game early because he's not going to win the game late. That said, you know, beggars can't be choosers on mulls to 6, so when you have lands and spells, you're just kind of inclined to keep it. Which,
Come on, beggars can't be choosers, are you sure?
I mean, there's a limit to how much better you're going to do on 5 cards.
Alright, touche.
So sometimes you want to keep a hand that, though it's missing a key piece, as long as you feel like it's one top deck from being a pretty good hand, you may still keep it. If it's 2 top decks away, that's when you start getting the area where you think about shipping it.
Alright, so it looks like some cards may have been dropped while shuffling the deck, so when he was far seeking. So we'll get this sorted out really quickly for you guys.
That's happened to me before. I, while shuffling, have actually thrown my cards across the table at my opponents, and that's
just rude. I don't know why you would do that. Most of your opponents, you seem like a nice guy. I don't understand why you would do that.
You know,
am I wrong?
Trying to get some added advantage.
Is there something you want to tell me? That's what happens when you play. I mean, I guess that can happen when you play Scape Shift so much.
Yeah, you know, he
shuffle.
switches your deck, just like, yeah, I got some lands. Here you go. I was, I was just rubbing it in his face. I was getting some lands.
Yeah.
You know, here you go, find them.
Yeah. I promise they're mountains.
Yeah, there's there's Valakut's in here. Here, go look. No. The turn 2 Farseek from Aaron Alldredge. Pretty good when his opponent hasn't cast a creature yet. And he drew a Simic Charm for the turn. So Brayden drawing all the tricks, all the instants, no creatures.
Yep. And so now here's Huntmaster of the Fells.
I mean, Brayden's just has to be on Snap Syncopate. And he is not.
Assuming Cavern Souls is pushing this through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cavern, then he can't do that.
Yeah.
Just missed the Cavern. So Brayden will have to Detention Sphere it, which that means if there's a Thragtusk looming, he will not have mana to counter it.
You see Brayden taking a look at his hand here. You know, he's kind of eyeing up that Selesnya Charm. Do I make a 2/2 here? It looks like he's going to. He's going to make a 2/2 Vigilant Knight. So that's going to come into play on the end step. But again, those cards just don't line up very well against Huntmaster of the Fells. This is where Huntmaster of the Fells dominates, is against opposing 2/2s.
Well, right, and the thing is that Brayden he wants to leave up counter magic because, you know, it's very likely Aaron has a follow-up play, right? Mm-hmm. He Farseeked and he kept a 7. But the problem is that Brayden also has to start casting spells every turn. Otherwise, that Huntmaster is going to dominate the game. It can win by itself.
So you see him taking a look at all those instants, the Rootborn defenses. He did draw a Loxodon Smiter for the turn, but now he wants to kind of surf him with that Knight, but does he want to put his shields down? Does it look like he's reaching for the Detention Sphere to take care of the Huntmaster? Does he want to trade his Knight with the Wolf token? Just a difficult situation. He doesn't even want to attack, so. Alldredge going to draw a card, draws Is it Static Caster for the turn, plays a Forest, and there is Thragtusk, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, his opponent's tapped out. Great time to resolve Thragtusk. That's a huge problem for any tempo deck.
It's a great time to attack with that Wolf, too, because had Efserhoff actually attacked with the Knight, I think that Alldredge immediately trades. He's super happy to do that, and so as a result, he doesn't hang back, which means he's valuing his Knight, which means it is certainly safe to get in with this Wolf, because I am not going to overvalue this.
Efserhoff now draws Spell Rupture. Once again, the Selesnya Charm is the only creature he's hit this game. Sorry, apologies, he has a Smiter now.
Yes.
But a little late.
What kind of impact is this 4/4 going to have on the board? I mean, it doesn't win a fight against a Thragtusk.
No, it can trade with the front tap of the Thragtusk, and if Brayden draws another Smiter, then maybe he can keep things at bay. But that's a lot of that's a lot of cards that aren't in Brayden's hand versus a lot of cards that are in Aaron's hand.
And now we see a Nightshade Peddler, and I've got a feeling I think we're going to see the combo here of Peddler plus Static Caster.
And this combo already we determined is pretty unbeatable for Brayden's deck.
Mm-hmm.
And Now things are on easy mode for Aaron Alldredge. Where you see the Rug Peddler just amazing against opposing aggro decks.
So in comes Thragtusk, in comes the Wolf token now too. So here come the beatdowns, and again, not overvaluing the Wolf token, and you see that Efserhoff is valuing that Knight token so highly that he won't block with it, but he also couldn't attack with it. And what kind of impact can that card have in the game at this point? It's very minimal.
And all his cards are tempo cards right now. They're cards that are great when you're ahead on the board, but don't really do anything when you're behind, and he's a fair ways behind.
Yeah. Seems like a very difficult game to come back from, again, because as we identified at the start, beating the combo of Staticaster plus Peddler for his deck is, I think it's impossible.
Well, especially because that Cavern of Souls is set to human, I don't know if he has an answer to it.
And the Detention Sphere that Efserhoff has in his sideboard has already been used here on the Huntmaster of the Fells, which was a good target for it.
I mean, he had to do it at that point.
And you see him kind of smiling a little bit here, saying, "I'm in some serious trouble right now. I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to come back in this game." And it's been a little while, Matthias, since we've seen the Peddler Staticaster combo, but when this combo is good in a certain metagame, and we're in an aggro one, it's great.
It's excellent against creature strategies. I think it's a strong combo because Staticaster just by itself is already good in a lot of matchups. Yeah. Peddler is the part which, you're kind of taking a hit by playing. But what you gain is, this really great interaction.
Yeah, you're just playing, a 2-mana 1/1 is not really where you want to be unless it's going to be an explosive one.
And on top of it, he's going to Miracle a Bonfire, which we knew about Rootborn defenses, right? So, okay, Brayden he has an answer to that. He's going to have some indestructible blockers this turn. I'm surprised that in response, Aaron isn't pinging the Knight token.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, too. It's like, in response, you should be pinging that Knight.
Yeah, before it populates. Wait, don't put that creature token in play. And now they're going to probably talk about, did you do that in time?
Yeah. And this is, again, an example of just communication being pretty poor between the players, where it should be pretty clear on what's taking place here, so there's never any confusion. But, one thing we're not confused about is Bonfire of the Damned comes off the top, Miracle for Infinite, and then that Thragtusk and that Wolf token are going to come through. The Staticaster are still going to be tapped, but we're going to see a handshake here, and we're going to see Aaron Alldredge win this match 2-1 and move on to 6-0.
Right. Well, probably if he can get his next round, he'll be in our top 8, and that's a pretty interesting deck to be so close to the top 8 of the tournament.
Yeah. Again, we talked about over the course of this weekend how aggressive strategies are kind of trying to dominate the format, and the Rug Peddler deck is very poorly positioned against Sinks Revelation decks. But if there's a lot of aggressive decks, this isn't a bad place to be.
No, Rug Peddler is, especially for a lot of the aggressive decks. They don't have answers to the Peddler Staticaster combo. On top of that, against a lot of them, just the Staticaster is a really good card.
Yeah, one of the strategies against Naya Blitz is having a card like Electrickery, potentially Golgari Charm, and this is just a reusable effect of that.
Right, we've seen people board in Electrickeries in a lot of the matches today.